Hello and welcome to another Excel tips video. I am Sumit Bansal, and in today's video I'm going to show you the differences between XLOOKUP and VLOOKUP function. Now these both are very popular functions, and XLOOKUP is a new and improved version of the VLOOKUP function where a lot of the shortcomings of VLOOKUP has been addressed in this new function. So in this video I'm going to show you many examples where you will understand the differences between how to use VLOOKUP and the XLOOKUP function. So let's get started. Before I take you through detailed examples of the differences between XLOOKUP and VLOOKUP, let me quickly show you the syntax. So here I have VLOOKUP function syntax where it takes 4 arguments. So let me show you in the formula itself. The first one is the lookup value. This is the value that you're looking for. Then there's a table array, which is the table in which you're looking for the value. Then there is a column index number, which means that you want to return the value from which column in the table array argument. And then finally, there is range lookup where you choose whether you want an exact match or an approximate match. So VLOOKUP has these 4 arguments, but when it comes to XLOOKUP, it takes 6 arguments. Let me again put XLOOKUP function here. The first one is the lookup value. Again, this is the same as VLOOKUP. Then the second one is the lookup array and return array. And instead of table array, it has broken it down to lookup array and return array. And I'll show you in examples why this is so important. Then in the fourth argument, I have if not found. This is an optional argument, which means that if the value is not found by XLOOKUP, is there something that you want to return? So instead of using any additional function such as if NA or if error, you can actually put that value right within the function. Then there is a match mode, and the match mode of XLOOKUP is a lot better than the match mode in VLOOKUP, which is this range lookup. So the range lookup is now called match mode here in XLOOKUP, but it is a lot better and has a lot many options. And then finally, it has search mode where you can choose whether you want to search from top to bottom or bottom to top, something that is missing in VLOOKUP. Now, just because XLOOKUP has more arguments, it does not mean that this function is more complicated. In fact, when you start using XLOOKUP, you would realize that this is actually an easier function to use despite the fact that it has more options. So now let me take you through detailed examples where you would understand the differences between these two functions and each of these arguments in detail. One of the biggest improvements of XLOOKUP is that it has broken down the table array argument of VLOOKUP into 2 separate arguments. Let me show you what I mean. So here I have these names, employee IDs and the department name, and I want to get the department name for this name here, Gloria, in cell G2. So I can use the VLOOKUP function here, and with VLOOKUP, this is going to be my lookup value, and then I need to select a table array, and this is my table array. Now the way VLOOKUP works is you will have to select a table array, and then you can only return a value from one of the columns in that table array. So in this case, it is going to look for the name Gloria in the leftmost column, and then I can say whether I want to return the employee ID or the department by specifying the column number. So this is my table array, and then you need to specify the column number, which is the column from which you want to return the value. In this case, because I want to return the department value, I'm going to specify 3 because that is the third column in the table array. So I specify 3 here, and then you have to specify whether you want to get an exact match or an approximate match, because in VLOOKUP by default it is approximate match. So if I do not specify exact match, my result may be incorrect. So I can put false here, or you can put 0 for false or 1 for true. And now when I hit enter, it gives me marketing here, which is the department for Gloria. Now let's see how to do the same thing using XLOOKUP. Again, with XLOOKUP, I would have to first select the lookup value, which is Gloria, which is F3. Then here is the difference. I have 2 separate arrays. One is the lookup array and one is the return array. So in lookup array, I'm only going to select the names column because this is where I want XLOOKUP to look for the names. And then return array could be any column. It does not have to be part of the lookup array, which means that I can separately select a return array from which I want to get the result. So in this case, I'm going to select this column, column C, that has the department names. So now what is going to happen is XLOOKUP is going to look for the name Gloria here and then return the corresponding department name from here. And you do not need to specify approximate or exact match because XLOOKUP by default has exact match as the value. So I do not need to specify true or false here. That's it. I can just hit enter and it gives me the result. So you can see VLOOKUP, although both of these functions are quite simple, you can still see that there is a benefit in using XLOOKUP. First, because it defaults to exact match, and second, because it has broken down the lookup array and the return array, which means that I can now choose any column. I'm not bound by the column to be a part of the table array itself. Another big limitation of the VLOOKUP function is that it cannot look for a value that is on the left of the lookup column. So in this case here, I have this employee ID and I want to get the name. And this is my data set where ID is here in the middle and the name is on the left of the ID column. Now I cannot do this using VLOOKUP function because if I try and do this, it first asks me to pick up the lookup value, which is going to be this ID. Now, in my table array, my table can only be this because VLOOKUP always looks in the leftmost column to find out the lookup value. So if I select this entire table array, then it is not going to work because this column, the ID column, has to be the leftmost column. But if that is the case, it means that I have not selected the names column, which means that I cannot use VLOOKUP to return the value from the column which is on the left of the ID column. But this can easily be done with XLOOKUP function because it has split the lookup array and return array into two separate arguments. So in this case, I can have this value, this is my lookup value, and then my lookup array is going to be this column. And now my return array could be anywhere. It could be in the same table. It could be in any other sheet as well. So it is independent of the lookup array. So here I can choose this as the return array. And now when I hit enter, it gives me Santos and we can check whether this is right or not. This is the right result. So this is again a big improvement in the XLOOKUP function where it can look on the left or on the right or anywhere because it has split the lookup array and the return array. Another difference between the VLOOKUP and the XLOOKUP function is that VLOOKUP defaults to approximate match and XLOOKUP defaults to exact match. Let me show you how it's different. So here I have this name and I want to get the score for Joseph from this data set. So here if I use VLOOKUP and this is my lookup value and then this is my table array. So it is going to look for the name in the leftmost column, which is the name column. And now here I want to get the score from the second column. Now in this case, if I do not specify the last argument, which is whether I want an exact match or an approximate match, if I leave this blank, it is going to default to approximate match, which might give me a wrong result. So see what happens when I hit enter, it gives me 72, but here, if I go to Joseph, you can see that the score is actually 68. So this is giving me a wrong result. And if I want the right result, I have to come here and I have to specify false here as an exact match, or as I said, you can also specify 0. And now when I hit enter, this gives me the right result. But with XLOOKUP, exact match is the default setting. So you do not have to worry about anything else. You can just use XLOOKUP and here D2 is my lookup value. And then this is my lookup range, and then this is my return array. And now when I hit enter, it gives me the right result. Now, if you want to do the approximate match in XLOOKUP, you can do that. And here you'll see that it has many more arguments that I am going to cover in the later examples. But if you want to specify the exact match or an approximate match, you can do that in XLOOKUP as well. But by default, it always goes to exact match, which is the more used use case when it comes to XLOOKUP or VLOOKUP functions. VLOOKUP function is made to always look from top to bottom in a list. So if in this case, if I want to look for the department name and then return the name, this is going to be my table array, but then VLOOKUP will look in the leftmost column, but it will always look from top to bottom. So starting from marketing, finance, marketing, and so on. But with XLOOKUP, you can actually specify the direction. So you can look either from top to bottom or bottom to top. So in this case, let's say I want to know who's the person who's tagged to the marketing department and who's the last person. So I want this name here. Now I cannot do this using VLOOKUP, but I can do this using XLOOKUP. So here, this is my lookup value. Now this is my lookup array. And then this is my return array. So these three are standard arguments, but then it has many more arguments you can see in the XLOOKUP function. So VLOOKUP has 4 arguments, XLOOKUP has 6 arguments. So in this case, I'm going to leave if not found empty, and I'll explain what this is in one of the examples. In the match mode, I'm going to go with exact match. And then here in the last argument, you can see it says search first to last or last to first. So in this case, because I want to go from the bottom, I'm going to select this value here, which is -1. And now when I hit enter, it gives me mini, which is this value, which is right. So with XLOOKUP, you can decide direction of the function where you want it to look from top to bottom or bottom to top. Let me also quickly explain the other arguments, the other options that we have in the last argument. So the first one is search first to last, which is just like VLOOKUP function from top to bottom. Then there is last to first, which would be from the bottom. Now in XLOOKUP, you can do vertical lookup as well as has horizontal lookup. So when it says first to last, it means top to bottom or left to right. And when it says last to first, it means bottom to top or right to left. And then there are two more options which are interesting, which is binary search sorted ascending order and binary search sorted descending order. Now these two options are there to make your XLOOKUP function faster. So if you know that you have a data set that is sorted in an ascending or a descending order, you can choose these options. And when you choose these options, your XLOOKUP function is going to be a lot more faster. Because XLOOKUP function is available in Excel versions that also has dynamic arrays, it allows us to fetch multiple values from a table. So let me show you what I mean. Here I have this name Gloria and I want to get the ID and the department name. Now, if you want to do this using VLOOKUP function, you would either have to use two separate functions. So for one for ID and one for department, or you can use a list within the VLOOKUP function. Let me show you how both of these work. So here with VLOOKUP, this is my lookup value. And now because I want the ID here, I'm going to select this entire range because the name is in the leftmost column. And then I want the ID value. So it would be 2. And then I want an exact match. So it would be 0. And now this gives me the ID. And then I can use the same formula with a different column name here to get the department name. So instead of 2, I'm going to make the department, the column number as 3 because I want the department name. So you can get the same thing with VLOOKUP, but you have to use either two separate formulas, or if you have dynamic arrays, what you can also do is instead of just 2, you can have 2 and 3 in curly brackets. So this becomes a list, and then this is going to use dynamic arrays to split the result and give me both the results from column number 2 and column number 3. So now if I hit enter, it gives me the ID as well as the department. But with XLOOKUP, because it is part of an Excel version that already has dynamic arrays, you do not need to have multiple functions or use a list. It is actually built into the formula. So see how it works. I would use the XLOOKUP function. This is my lookup value. And here my lookup array is going to be the column that has the names. And then in my return array, instead of just selecting one column, I can select two columns. And what happens in this case now is, now when I hit enter, it is going to look for the name in E2, which is the name here. And then it is going to return both the values in the selected return array because I've selected two columns. If I select 5 columns, it is going to return 5 values. So see what happens as soon as I hit enter, it gives me the ID and the department names. So if you want to get multiple column values for your lookup value, you can easily do that using the XLOOKUP function. Another good improvement in the XLOOKUP function is a default value that you can return when the function is not able to find the lookup value. So in this case, let's say I have this name Julie and I want to find the name and then return the ID. Now you would notice that this name is not there in this column, in the names column. So if I come here and I use VLOOKUP function and I look up this value, and this is my table array, then I want to return it from the second column and I want an exact match. So now if I use this function and I hit enter, it gives me NA, which is not available because it cannot find the name Julie. Now, if I want this to return something more meaningful, I would have to wrap this function in something like an if NA function. So for example, I would come here and I would put this in if NA, where this is the value, and if this value is not found, then I can return something like not found. So VLOOKUP can do this, but then it is not part of the formula itself. You will have to use it with some other functions such as if NA or if error. But with XLOOKUP, that has already been baked into the formula. So see how it works. I have the XLOOKUP function. This is my lookup value. My lookup array are these names. My return array are these employee IDs. And now I have this argument called if not found, where if my function is not able to find that name, I can specify what it should return. So here I can just type not found. And now when I hit enter, it gives me not found for this name because it cannot find this name. But if it finds some name, for example, if I change this to Gloria, it is going to return the ID. So this makes the function a little better because now I don't have to use two separate functions. I can do that just with one single XLOOKUP function. Here is another improvement in the XLOOKUP function that not many people know about, and which is when you're working with approximate match. So here I have these names and I have these scores, and I want to get the grades of these students based on this table here. Now, if I'm going to do this using VLOOKUP, I can easily do this using the approximate match. So let me show you the formula where I want to look up for this score in this table. So this is going to be my table array, and let me press F4 to lock this. And now I want to return the grade. So I'm going to select 2 as the column. and I want this to be an approximate match. So I'm going to select true here. Now, if you do not select it, it is anyway going to default to approximate match, but let me select true here and see what happens. Now, when I hit enter, it gives me the right result, I think, and let me drag this down. And you will see that it has given me the right result. So for 93, it should be A, which is fine. For something between 80 and 90, it should be B. So the result here is right. But what happens if I change this table so that it is not sorted? Because for VLOOKUP2 function, this table needs to be sorted in an ascending order. So for example, in this case, let's say if I change this table and I just change the sorting. So this table is now no longer sorted, and you can see the result of the VLOOKUP function is now incorrect. You can see here 89 gives me the grade as D, which is not right. It should be B. And here 73 again is giving me D, while it should be, I think, C. So this doesn't work, but it does work with XLOOKUP, because XLOOKUP function, while it's doing approximate match, does not need your table to be sorted in any ascending or descending order. The function is going to take care of it. So here, see what happens when I use XLOOKUP function. This is my lookup value, which is the score. My lookup array in this case is going to be this, and let me press F4 to lock this, and then my return array are going to be these grades. Again, let me press F4 to lock this. And now if I want to use approximate match, I would have to explicitly mention this, because this defaults to exact match. So if not found argument, I'm going to leave this empty. Match mode here, I'm going to select exact match or next smaller item, which means that if I, let's say, get a value of 79, then if it doesn't match the 80, the grade for 80, it is going to give me a grade which is one less than 80. So here I'm going to select this option, and you can see there are multiple options. In VLOOKUP, there is only exact match and approximate match, but with XLOOKUP, you have 4 options. Exact match, just like VLOOKUP. With approximate match, they have actually split it into 2, where it would give you value which is lower than the lookup value if the lookup value is not found, or the next larger item. So they have split this into 2, and then they have also made something called as wildcard character match, which I'm going to show you in one of the examples later. So now here I'm going to select exact match or next smaller value. And now when I hit enter, it gives me E, and let me drag this down. And you can see this is going to now work fine. Here 89 is B, despite the fact that my table is not sorted. XLOOKUP function takes care of the sorting. It does the sorting within the formula, and then it gives you the result when you're working with approximate match. So this is again a little advanced use case, but not many people know about this, but this is something that I'm really happy about. And in this last example, let me show you the wildcard match mode in XLOOKUP. So here I have this name GLO and with an asterisk sign, and I want to get the score for this name. Now, an asterisk sign is a wildcard character, which means that it can represent any number of characters in Excel, which means that GLO asterisk can also mean Gloria or any other name or any other text that starts with the string GLO. Now, if I use VLOOKUP, VLOOKUP would always consider asterisk as a wildcard character. So here, let me show you. D2 is my lookup value. This is my table array, and I want to return the score from column number 2, and I want an exact match. Now, when I hit enter, it gives me 58, which is the score of Gloria here. And you can see it works. If I change this to, let's say, 72, it is going to automatically change, which means that VLOOKUP by default considered asterisk as a wildcard character. So it matched it with Gloria. But with XLOOKUP, you have the option to choose whether you want the function to consider asterisk or question mark or tilde as a wildcard character or not. So let me show you. Here I have the XLOOKUP function. D2 is my lookup value. And now this is my lookup array, which has the names. This is my return array, which has the score. And now in the match mode argument, you can see I have these 4 options. I've already covered the first 3. The last one is wildcard character match. And if I select this, it says search for a wildcard match where an asterisk, question mark or tilde have special meaning. Now, in this case, if I want it to consider this as a wildcard character match, I would select this. And now when I hit enter, it gives me the right result. But if I go back and I remove this argument, then it is going to give me not available, because now it considers asterisk as just any other character. It is not treating it as a wildcard character. So I'm only going to get a match when there is an exact match. So if I change this to GLO asterisk, you can see it gives me the right result. But if I change it back to Gloria, it says that it has not been able to find the lookup value because now it is not considering asterisk as a wildcard. So again, XLOOKUP gives you this flexibility where you can choose whether you want these wildcard characters to be treated as wildcard or not. So these are all the differences between the XLOOKUP and the VLOOKUP function. I've tried to explain all the differences using simple examples. So hopefully you now have a very good understanding of why XLOOKUP is a much better function and why you should be using it. That's it in this video. I hope you found this useful. Also, if you're liking these videos, please subscribe to this YouTube channel and click on the bell icon so that you never miss out on any new Excel tips video I come up with. Thank you and have a nice day.